We are solving Book 19, Test 4, Passage 2. The heading is Deep Sea Mining. This means removing valuable materials like metals from the deep ocean. The subheading says that scientists have found bacteria in the deep ocean that might help cure diseases like cancer and infections that medicines cannot treat. However, mining minerals from the ocean can destroy the habitats or the homes of sea animals and plants. The phrase hunger for marine minerals means people want these minerals very badly, which can be harmful to the ocean environment. An important thing to note is that deep sea mining is mentioned in different ways throughout the passage. For example, commercial mining, deep sea exploration, extraction, and to excavate. There are three question types: matching information, matching features, and gap fill. We'll do the matching information questions last because it's easier to do these questions when we are a little familiar with the passage. We start with the matching features questions. In these questions, we are given a list of items, usually names, and we have to match them to the statements in the question. To solve these questions, I recommend you locate where and how often the names are there in the passage. Then read all the statements. Then start with the names which have the least content in the passage. We focus on the parts of the passage which are in quotes, which tell us that this is something that the person has said, or where there is something like she argues, where it is not in quotes but it is still something the person said. We have 5 names, they are listed at the top of the screen. The first name, Professor Upton, is mentioned in paragraphs A and B. After that, all the other names are mentioned once each from paragraphs D to F. Let's go through the statements in the question. The parts of each statement that are the keywords and that I'll keep in mind as I look for answers are in bold on your screen. The 18th question says that some places on land have been mined a lot. So it is better to stop mining there and look at other options. The 19th question says that undersea exploration or mining in the sea can harm the nearby areas and the people who live there. Question 20th says that the sea has more useful things than just the minerals. Question 21st says that many human activities harm the ocean, but deep sea mining is the worst for marine life or the sea animals and plants. The 22nd question says that we know more about outer space, that is, about planets, stars, etc., than we do about the oceans. The 23rd question mentions a specific place in the sea where all the experts say that we should not do mining. Now we start looking for the answers in the passage. We'll read what Professor Matt Upton said last because he is mentioned in more paragraphs than others. We start reading what Hunter, Agwan, and Singh have said, which is mentioned in paragraph D. What they say starts from here. Then there is the authors say. This also mentions something they said, so it is relevant. After that, again the text is in quotes, so we focus on these parts. We ignore the part where it is just mentioned where these people work, etc., and focus on what they have said. On your screen are meanings of some words from the paragraph. There are 2 things said in this paragraph. We'll study the first sentence separately. This says that deep sea mining started half century ago or 50 years ago. The new global rush means that people are racing to mine valuable materials from the deep sea. This is compared to people competing with others for resources before as well. The part important for us is after this dash. General disregard means people not caring about something. So, people in general, or here, people who are doing deep sea mining, don't care about two things. First is the environmental and social impact. This impact will be on the local area. Second is marginalization of indigenous peoples. Indigenous people are the native people of a place. Marginalization means they are pushed to a margin or a side and they are not given importance. This corresponds with the 19th question. Negative effects on local areas are the environmental and social impacts. Inhabitants are the indigenous people. They are being ignored is a general disregard for them. This is what Julie Hunter, Julian Egwan, and Pradeep Singh said. So the answer to the 19th question is B. Now we look at the second half of paragraph D. These are also things that these three have said. Here they say our knowledge of deep sea bed remains extremely limited. Deep seabed means deep ocean. So we know very little about what is under the ocean. Then they say we have studied moon, Mars, etc. in detail. This is the outer space. For deep sea, they say we don't know what we need to know or study. This corresponds with question 22. We know more about Moon, Mars, etc. Moon, Mars, and even Venus are the outer space. We know about them is we have mapped and studied them in much detail. In comparison, we do not know what lies beneath the oceans or the deep sea bed. The instructions above the question say you may use any letter more than once. Here, two questions have the same answer. So the answer to the 22nd question is also B. We are done with paragraph D. Paragraph E is a short paragraph. It mentions only one person, Dr. John Copley. But when we look closely at paragraph E, it mentions the paper says and the paper continues. This refers to the paper written by Hunter, Egwan, and Singh mentioned in paragraph D. So, this part of paragraph E is not about John Copley. It is about what Hunter, Egwan, and Singh have said. Let's first focus on this part of paragraph E, which refers to a paper written by these three. This part says that deep sea mining is a grave threat or a serious problem. Vital seabed functions means important things that happen in the ocean, like how animals and plants live there. Mining can harm these functions. Extraction methods are ways of taking minerals from the ocean floor. These extraction methods produce some things which disturb the seafloor environment. This does not match any of the statements given in the questions. Question 21 talks about the destructive impact on marine life because of deep sea mining. That is mentioned here in paragraph E. But this says that no other form of human exploration has this much negative impact. But this paragraph does not say that this is the biggest threat or worse than anything else. This is why this does not match question 21. We are done with this part and we realize that there is only one sentence that Dr. John Copley has said. Let's understand this. This says that scientists are clear that they don't want mining in deep sea vents. So, deep sea vents are a place on the ocean floor. It is enough if we understand this. We do not need to understand any more details about it. This matches question number 23. Marine habitat is a place in the sea where animals live. Deep sea vents are also a habitat. Scientists are the experts. They are clear or they agree that they do not want mining on deep sea vents. So the answer to the 23rd question is C. Dr. John Copley. A confusion could be that another person, Verena Tunicliffe, has also said this. This is mentioned in paragraph F. Here she says vents must be off limits. Off limits means something is not allowed. So she is saying that mining should not be allowed in vents. But this is different from what is mentioned in the question because she is not saying that scientists or experts say this. She just says that herself. But Dr. John Copley says that scientists or experts say this, agree to this. That is why the answer to the 23rd question is C and not E. Now we move on to the next paragraph, paragraph F. It mentions two persons from the list. This part is spoken by Mike Johnson, and then after this, what is mentioned is spoken by Verena Tunicliffe. Let's start with the first part. We ignore this part, which just gives us information about where Mike Johnson works, etc. We focus on what he has said. The paragraph says that oceans cover around 70% of the earth and have not been explored much. The phrase untapped potential means that ocean has useful resources that we have not used yet. It says we should explore these resources in an environmentally sustainable way, that is, in a way that does not harm the environment. And it says that instead of using resources on land which are depleting or which are reducing very quickly, we should look at the ocean to meet society's needs. That is, we should mine minerals from the ocean instead of land. This is the same as what the 18th question says. Heavily mined reserves on land are the fast depleting land resources. A move away is instead of, and a good idea is makes sense. So Mike Johnson is saying that it is a good idea or it makes sense that we move away from mining land resources. The answer to the 18th question is D. Mike Johnson. Now we look at the second half, which is what Verena Tunicliffe has said. This says that deep sea mining will be the greatest assault on ecosystems ever. Assault is an attack on something, ecosystem is the environment. Then she says that active vents must be off limits or we should not do any mining on active vents. This is something we have already discussed when working on the 23rd question. And she also says there should be some strict controls if mining happens anywhere. This matches question number 21. Assault is destructive impact, greatest ever is no other form. So, nothing else will cause as much damage to marine life or deep sea ecosystems as mining. The answer to the 21st question is E. We have now read about 4 of the 5 persons in the list. Only one question is left, that is the 20th question. Upton is mentioned in 2 paragraphs. Let's focus on paragraph A first. Superbugs are bacteria that do not die with the antibiotics or medicines we have. Paragraph A says that Upton found a microbe or a tiny living thing like bacteria from a sea animal. This microbe could kill harmful bacteria, so it might help fight superbugs. Then it says that ocean can be used to make new medicines. Upton fears that the future possibility or potential of making new medicines will not be possible because we are already mining sea for minerals. Let's see what paragraph B says. Bioactive refers to living things. The first sentence says that living things from the sea can be used to make medicines. Halt to deep sea mining means to stop mining the sea for minerals. Upton says stopping mining would be better for long term sustainability or for protecting the future of the ocean and its resources. He says it will take about 10 years to develop the medicine. Question 20 says there are more worthwhile things or useful things we can get from the sea than minerals. The mining we are doing now is for minerals. Upton says that there are medicines that we can get from the sea. The medicines are the more worthwhile things which we can get from sea instead of minerals. So the answer to the 20th question is A. On your screen are all the answers of matching features questions along with their location in the passage. There are many things to keep in mind when working on these questions. We need to understand who is saying what. Quotation marks help, but sometimes there are other words like estimates that tell us that this is connected to this person. Another thing is making sure who is saying what. Paragraph D is about these 3 people. It mentions a paper written by them. After this, paragraph E has a lot of text in quotes but mentions only one name. But when we read this closely, we see that only this part is said by this person. The rest of it refers to the paper, which means it refers to the paper written by these 3. Also, we need to make sure we understand the statements properly. Question 23 is about one marine habitat. This refers to ocean vents. Both John Copley and Verena Tunnicliffe talk about ocean vents, but Verena Tunnicliffe only gives her own opinion, whereas John Copley talks about experts agreeing to this opinion. That is why the correct answer is C and not E. Lastly, I find it helpful to start with the people who have the least amount of text. That's the approach I took here when looking for the answers. Let's move on to the next set of questions, the gap fill questions. The answers to these questions are usually in the same order as the information in the passage. So, the first thing we do is identify location keywords from the questions and find the tentative location of the answers in the passage. The heading of the questions is Mining the Sea Floor. This means the same as the heading of the passage, Deep Sea Mining. So, this cannot help us find out where the answers could be in the passage. The questions have no capitalized words or numbers, but there are some words that can help. Mining corporations, we could look for mention of companies that do mining. Land, the passage is about sea, so most probably land will not be mentioned in too many places. Method could be the name of a method. Slurry is an uncommon word, so I don't expect a synonym of slurry in the passage. Also, we have done questions 18 to 23. For this, we read parts of most of the paragraphs, but we didn't read paragraph C at all because no names are mentioned in this paragraph. As we scan, we find many words from the question in this paragraph. Let's start with the 24th question. The first sentence says that minerals from the sea are better than minerals from the land. The next sentence starts with they also say. They here means the mining corporations or the big companies. These refers to the minerals from the sea. The second sentence says that we can mine or we can remove minerals from the sea without producing much of something. Or in other words, only a small amount of something will be produced when sea minerals are mined. We need to find what this something is from the passage. In this paragraph, a lot of mineral resources are mentioned: nickel, cobalt, copper, etc. The first sentence says that the sea has more of these minerals than all of the land. But the question is about mining corporations, which are mentioned in the second sentence, so we'll focus from there. This sentence says that deep sea mining can give us diverse or different types of metals. The demand of these metals is soaring, or it is increasing very fast. In the next sentence, they means the mining corporations. Yield means to produce or to give something. So, deep sea mining can yield or produce better quality ore than land mining. Ore refers to the rocks or minerals from which we get metal. Finally, with little waste means without producing much waste. On your screen, you can see which parts of the question correspond to which parts of the paragraph, which helps us figure out the answer. So, minerals can be removed without much waste or with little waste. The answer to question 24 is waste. Moving on to the 25th question. Usually, when a question has two paragraphs, the answers also come from two different paragraphs in the passage. But that is not the case here. A new paragraph starts in the questions after question 24. However, we see the words methods and slurry, which appear in the same paragraph, paragraph C. This means the answer to question 25 is also likely found in paragraph C. This is where we found the answer to the 24th question. We start looking after this. The question is saying that something is changed, or adapted for use in extraction or mining of minerals. This something is already used on land. Here, extraction and excavation mean the same thing. This sentence of the question explains the method. Seawater is removed from the slurry and then seawater is returned to the seabed or the bottom of the sea. Now, looking at the passage, the first sentence here is long, but it says the same thing as the question. First, it says different methods are used for extraction or for mining, but in most cases, they employ or they use converted machinery. Converted means adapted or changed. Terrestrial means land. So, this means that machinery that was previously used on land is now changed or adapted for use in the sea. The answer is machinery. After this, it explains what slurry is, which is not mentioned in the question. Then the paragraph describes the process of removing seawater from slurry, which matches the second sentence of the question. From the question, we know two things about the answer. It is adapted and it is already used on land. From the passage, we know machinery is converted or adapted and it is used on land mining or it is used for terrestrial mining. The answer to the 25th question is machinery. Moving on to the 26th question. As I mentioned before, usually two paragraphs in the question mean answers from two different paragraphs from the passage. Here, the answers to the 24th and 25th question are from one paragraph. The next paragraph in the passage starts with but, which corresponds to however in the question. So, the answer to the 26th question is from the next paragraph. The question means that there are some people or organizations which think that mining can have some consequences or some results which we don't know about yet. Because of this, something is necessary. We have to find out what this something is. In paragraph D, we see that concerned groups correspond with environmental and legal groups. Urge means to strongly advise something. So these groups are urging or advising that we should be cautious or we should be careful. And the reason for that is unidentified consequences or unknown ramifications. So these groups are saying that caution is necessary. The answer to the 26th question is caution. However, one thing that can be confusing is the mention of regulatory framework. But the passage only says that regulatory framework or any kind of rules have not been drafted or have not been made. It doesn't say regulatory framework is necessary. Also, we can only use one word for the answer, and framework alone would not make sense here. So the answer is caution. On your screen are all the gap fill answers along with their location in the passage. Note that the answers are in order in the passage. We found the exact word for the answer. We are now done with matching features and gap fill questions. We'll start with the matching information questions or which paragraph contains the information. We are doing this question type last because it becomes slightly easier if we do the other questions first and are familiar with the passage before we start this one. For matching information questions, we read all the questions, Identify the key information and then start scanning the passage. On your screen, some important keywords of the questions are highlighted. These help us focus on what to look for in the passage. Let's understand each question. The 14th question is about one raw material in the transport industry. This means we need to find the name of a specific material and its use in transport. So maybe there could be a mention of cars, ships, planes, etc. The 15th question is asking how much of the earth is covered by oceans. So we should look for a number, a percentage, or a fraction like 70%, 3/4, etc. The 16th question is about a specific underwater habitat where minerals and organisms exist together, and the question is about how this habitat is formed. The 17th question says that countries have yet not agreed on rules for deep sea mining. So we need to find a paragraph that talks about lack of international rules. Now we'll go to the passage and look for these keywords and ideas in the different paragraphs. There are different ways we try to locate the right paragraph for each question. The first is that we may have come across some information while doing the previous question types. So if anything sounds familiar, we go back to that part and check. If this doesn't work, another approach we take is that we read the first sentence of each paragraph to get the main idea of the paragraph, and if needed, we read the last sentence as well. If the first two methods don't work, we scan through the passage while keeping the important keywords from the questions in mind. Now let's apply these steps to find the answers. For the 14th question, we are looking for a specific raw material. While solving the gap fill questions, we have seen a few names in paragraph C. Also, these are the first sentences from all the 6 paragraphs. The first sentence itself mentions a few names. This tells us that the paragraph might contain information about a raw material. Now we check for transport industry and rapidly increasing demand of something. In the second sentence of paragraph C, we see demand for cobalt for electric car batteries is soaring. From the colors on the screen, you can see that demand corresponds with need, soaring with rapidly increasing, etc. So we have all the information asked in question 14th in paragraph C. So the answer to question 14 is C. Moving on to the 15th question, where we are looking for how much part of Earth is covered by oceans. Once again, we can find the answer by using the first two methods. We have already come across this information while attempting matching features questions. Also, the answer to this question is in the first sentence of paragraph F. The oceans occupy around 70% of the planet, corresponds with a rough estimate of the area of the earth covered by the oceans. So the answer to the 15th question is F. Let's start with the 16th question. The 16th question is a little difficult. For this question, we are looking for a particular underwater habitat. A habitat is a place where animals, plants, or organisms live. We are looking for a habitat where minerals and organisms exist together, and we are looking for a mention of how this habitat is formed. So there could be a mention of some process or explanation about what happens in nature because of which this habitat is formed. Once again, we look at the first sentences of all the paragraphs. Paragraph E mentions something being created. Also, this sentence mentions vents. We have already read about vents before when solving the 23rd question, and even here, vents are referred to as one marine life habitat. So, in paragraph E, it says that hydrothermal vents are created when seawater meets volcanic magma. So, this is how vents are formed. Then it says they are home to minerals as well as animals. So, this covers all the three things that we are looking for: a particular habitat, which is hydrothermal vents, how they are formed, and minerals and some organisms existing together. So the answer to the 16th question is E. However, most keywords from the question appear in paragraphs A and B. In paragraph A, microbe and deep sea sponge are mentioned, which refer to organisms. Mineral resources are mentioned, and this could be a mention of a habitat 700 meters under the sea at some place. However, this paragraph does not mention how this habitat is formed. Similarly, in paragraph B, new species like sea cucumbers are organisms. Mining indicates the presence of minerals, and this could be the mention of or the location of a habitat 3000 meters under the Pacific Ocean. But again, there is no mention of how it is formed. That is why the answer to the 16th question is E. Moving on to the 17th question. We are looking for lack of international rules. Once again, this is something we have already come across when solving the 26th question, which comes from the first sentence of paragraph D. So there is some mention of global regulatory framework in the first sentence of paragraph D. So this is the paragraph we focus on. The countries of the world is global, yet to agree on rules refers to there is no regulatory framework or there are no set rules and guidelines prepared yet. This sentence does not mention the exploration of the seabed, but the whole passage is about exploration of seabed or about deep sea mining. And if we read the sentences before and after this sentence, we can see deep sea mining being mentioned. So the answer to the 17th question is D. Here are some things that could confuse you though. Paragraph A mentions a country, UK, which could confuse you, but the question doesn't mention a particular country. It mentions countries of the world. And there is no mention of any rules or regulations for deep sea mining, etc., in this paragraph. Also, paragraph F has the words planet and global, which could make you think about the world. This paragraph also talks about environmental issues related to deep sea mining. But again, there is no mention of countries not agreeing to any rules. So the answer to the 17th question is D, because it clearly says that the global regulatory framework is not yet drafted. On your screen are all the answers to the matching information questions with their locations in the passage. Doing this question type after all the other questions helped because we had already read some of the relevant parts. We also checked the first sentences of each paragraph. There are other ways to find answers to these questions, such as reading the last sentences or scanning the passage with keywords in mind. However, in this case, we did not need to use these techniques. The answers were relatively easy to find. The trickiest question was the 16th question, as three paragraphs mentioned an underwater place with minerals and organisms, but only one explained how it was formed. With this, we have completed all the questions for Test 4 Passage 2. I'll solve Passage 3 in my next video. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, do like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. All the very best.